So what we have here is 3 generating plants serving Pittsburgh. We've got a combustion turbine, which is like a jet engine. You don't turn it on very often, but you turn it on when you really need it. The nuclear plant, 500 megawatts, costs $20 a megawatt to run. And the coal plant that costs $40. So we're going to start through the day because the rules in PJM's market specify that you run the cheapest stuff first. Start with the cheapest, the next cheapest, and so on until you get to the most expensive, if you need it, but you only run what you need. All right, so let's say we got, it's 6 in the morning. The demand in Duquesne is 400 megawatts, or 400 megawatts for an hour, 400 megawatts. Okay. Hold up your signs. Okay. Now, you're running the cheapest thing first. Which one's going to run? The nuclear plant, $20. All right, now it's 7 o'clock, and we've got a demand of 500 megawatts. What's going to run? The nuclear, $20 a megawatt. That's 2 cents a kilowatt. Now, 8 o'clock, demand's up, 650 megawatts. What's going to run? Who's running? Who's coal? I've got one here, thanks. So now the price is going to be, it's $20 for the nuclear plant, $40 for the coal plant. What's the price of electricity? What's the price for these 650 megawatts of electricity? No. It's going to be, no, it's not prorated. I'm looking for you. Right, it's not going to be prorated or additive. It's going to be, this is the marginal clearing price. The margin is where you are in terms of going up your costs. So $40 a megawatt hour. When we were burning 500 megawatts of electricity from a nuclear plant, that was $10,000. Now we've gone to a $40 price. It's the marginal price, right? The most expensive plant sets the price. So now the price went for 150 megawatts. It went from 10,000 to 26,000, right? Because the nuclear plant gets $40, just as the coal plant. The coal plant, and this is the cost to run. So it costs that nuclear plant $20 to produce a megawatt hour. It costs the coal plant $40 to produce a megawatt hour. So now the price is $40. All right, we're going to go to 9 a.m., 800 megawatts. Who's running? Those two, right? 500 of nuclear, 300 of coal. Price is still $40 per. We're going to go to 10 o'clock in the morning. 1,000 megawatts is demanded from consumers. Okay? Nuclear and coal, both running full out, $40 a megawatt hour. The total cost of the system is $40,000. Now, the next hour we got 1 more megawatt of demand. We don't have any more nuclear or coal capacity to run. Brian turns on 1 megawatt, right? He has 25 megawatts, but you only need 1. What's the price of electricity? $140. So the price for 1 megawatt out of 1,000 is 1,000 at $40,000. Add 1 megawatt, $140,000. So the marginal plant, whatever it costs, is setting the price of everything. What if we didn't have to have this? What if you did an energy efficiency project for a megawatt, right? CCI does a megawatt's worth of efficiency, and you never got here, right? Instead of being $140,000 spread over these megawatts, it's now $40,000. That's why efficiency and demand response are important. Thank you. Okay. So, you can sit down. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank all the generators for their efforts here. Okay. So, all right. PJM, formerly the Pennsylvania, Jersey, Maryland Interconnection. It was a bunch of utilities up here who got together almost 100 years ago. That's on the next slide, but to mutually support each other for reliability. Somebody's plant failed, they were interconnected so somebody else could provide the electricity and keep the lights on. So it was just about reliability. They shared the cost, so if it cost, Duquesne wasn't in it, it cost Pico in Philadelphia $50 and it cost PPL $100, they would share the cost. So it would be $75 that was sold from Pico. So Pico made some money, PPL saved some money, so there were economic aspects that were brought in later. Okay. So it operates the energy and related markets. There's several different markets. Only 2 of them are really important to us. And it has the reliability responsibility. The first responsibility of PJM Interconnection, which operates the transmission system, the big grid, the wholesale federally regulated part that gets electricity from Cleveland to Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh to Philadelphia. That's federally regulated. The stuff on your street is not. That belongs to Duquesne Light or First Energy or West Penn, whoever your local distribution company is. This is about the big stuff, and this is about keeping the lights on all over the region. So what we just did is called economic dispatch. PJM has a standard that is security constrained economic dispatch. And what that means is, if there's a reliability problem, then you can go out of the order that we saw demonstrated there. So you might run for reasons that we can speculate, we can make up stories, why that combustion turbine might have to run before all of the capacity from the coal plant was running. Something local, something that it requires it to run. So it's all about economics, but if there's a reliability problem, then we do something else. So, and so it runs the markets, it keeps the lights on, first job, and then it determines which electricity transmission projects get built. Again, the big stuff, the great big steel towers, not the stuff outside your house. But that's the stuff that keeps the system together, because the transmission system is designed to make sure that a failure anywhere can be picked up anywhere else. Doesn't always exactly work that way, but that's the theory behind the transmission system. It's this interconnected grid. It gets electricity where it needs to go. Markets, energy, this stuff, electrons, keeps the lights on, makes your electric stove work, your electric water heater, generator, local machinery, things like that. Capacity, which is where energy efficiency comes in. It's the insurance product. And ancillary services, that's things like voltage support. Because if the voltage goes bad, the system can't stay alive. I mean, it's something that regulates the quality of the electricity. So there are other markets there. There it is, forget about it. Just the energy aspect. Okay. Key principle. Energy is instantaneous, but resources to produce it or save are not. In other words, Beaver Valley's running, making electricity, but if you never built Beaver Valley, let's not get into the nuclear, non-nuclear stuff, but if you never built Beaver Valley, you wouldn't have a resource to make electricity, and then you got a problem. So that's why we have the capacity market. It is to make sure that, as they say, the iron in the ground is there to make electricity when we need it. So everybody that sells retail electricity, it would be the distribution companies, it would be Direct Energy and a bunch of other folks, have to buy capacity. You pay for it, of course, but they have to buy it to guarantee what their load will be, plus 50% because of failures and things like that. To guarantee that there will be electricity in the system. So you're going to pay an energy bill. You look at your electricity bill, and I don't know whether they parse that out. Do you show capacity charges? Yeah. Okay. So you see energy and capacity, 2 different things. One needed to keep the lights on now, the other needed to keep the lights on in the future. Okay. And I kind of put it in terms of a promise. I am going to be there. It's actually 3 years in the future, so that they have planning room. And the utilities and so on make a commitment to pay 3 years forward for capacity. It's a reservation charge, it's an insurance policy, whatever you want to call it, but you're paying for 2 different things that are needed to provide reliability over the long term. Okay, energy efficiency in the capacity market. There are various things, various resources, as they say, that provide reliability, and that could be electric generation. It could be demand response, which is turning electricity off or consumption down when you get to the peaks. So you remember, the farther you go up in consumption, the more it costs. They keep getting up there, and it was sometime last month it was $500–600 at least a megawatt hour. And so you can have demand response functions that turn down the lights a little bit, turn down the heat a little bit, turn off certain things that are not absolutely needed. So as that curve goes up and demand goes up and price goes up, it cuts it off, right? You turned off some things to make sure that you didn't get to that peak where price might be $1,000 a megawatt hour, which is $1 a kilowatt hour, and very big. And then you have energy efficiency, which makes sure that the stuff never even gets up there. So you make things more efficient, and that curve will never get up here, ideally. We'll never get up to the top there where it's $1,000 because you're using less. You're not going to use as much anytime. You're going to have more efficient lights. So when you turn on the lights, instead of using, I don't know what it would be, 100 kilowatt hours in this building an hour, you're using 50, 70, whatever. Lighting is a pretty easy way to save electricity. So energy efficiency, all of these things can be in the capacity market because they affect the amount of electricity that's needed. So remember, 3 years forward, you're writing a guarantee. The utility does 10 megawatts of energy efficiency, and that means instead of going to PJM and saying, well, 3 years from now, my forecast shows I'm going to need 1,000 megawatts at peak. I need now, because I did that project, I need 990 megawatts at the peak. So I've saved, not only have I saved some money for the people who got the projects done, but I put those savings, I can bundle them up and put them into the capacity market and save on the capacity charge as well. And again, the price goes up the more you use. So if you just sort of drag that curve down, you're going to save everybody money for the projects that people did to save themselves money. Okay. How you get to be an EE project in the capacity market? It's a wholesale market. Well, the wholesale market, because of the way it works, doesn't have energy efficiency, doesn't have demand response. Those things happen because large companies, individual homeowners, do things that reduce their consumption, or else, for example, have a control on your HVAC system, your heat pump, that turns it off when you get up to the top of the demand. So there are things that are done there by retail folks that, when bundled, go in, okay? And capacity resource or energy efficiency resources, because it has to be a kind of guarantee, have to do an M&V, measurement verification plan, to PJM to prove that the project really does what they say it does. And once they prove it, PJM says, okay, you're qualified. We know 3 years forward, you're going to have reduced consumption by 10 megawatts. And thank you, your ticket is now 990 megawatts instead of 1,000. Because of a deal that was cut, even though many efficiency projects last much longer than 4 years, that's how long they can participate in the capacity market. We'll see what happens in the future with that, but there's more problems than that. All right, so just an example for this coming planning year. Planning year starting June 1st and end on May 31st. So June 1st of 15 to May 31st of 16 is because it captures the summer period at the very front of that planning period when things are most volatile, most risky. So 922.5 megawatts of efficiency went into the whole market. That's PJM. That's like the peak load in PJM is 150,000 megawatts. So not very much compared to that. But you can read through the math. At the end, it was, divide by 1,049 bucks a kW of additional money to justify energy efficiency projects. So imagine you have an energy efficiency project, you're looking at it at home and you're saying, you know, it's just a little bit too expensive. Maybe that $49 passed down through the folks who do these projects will make it a little bit cheaper. So there's money coming from PJM to the energy efficiency project for being there to keep the risk down and the price down. And they can pass some of that money on to you. Same thing for demand response. Okay. Why should you care? Okay, here we are, the individual person that you do things to save yourself money. We did things at our house to save ourselves the cost of electricity, particularly for air conditioning. And if you put those things together, you can put it into the capacity market. Generally, those projects are offered in at relatively low prices. It's called a price ticker. You might even offer it in zero, right? Because you know the capacity price is going to be, as it was, and you saw on the previous slide, $134 a megawatt, or was it $49,000 a year for 1 megawatt. So you know that that price is going to be fairly high. Maybe not west of here, but here. And so you can be confident that you will get something. You're going to do that project anyway, or if you get 10 bucks a megawatt day, that'll be enough money to make the project make economic sense. So you're going to put it in at a low price. Well, what happens? If you have these more and more expensive things going into the capacity market, and you put a cheap one in, by the time you get to that most expensive thing, you don't need it anymore. Again, you have saved yourself from going to more expensive, most expensive resources by putting in this cheaper and also good thing, energy efficiency, into that market. So, okay. About 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, whatever, FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, sorry, I fall on the acronyms all the time, which regulates this wholesale market, regulates wholesale transmission, sets the standards for reliability. So they govern PJM, which runs the markets and is responsible day to day for keeping the lights on. Issued an order, Order 745, which set pricing for demand response on energy efficiency. Okay, so they changed the compensation for demand response, meaning richer. Electric Power Supply Association sued, saying that's not fair. Right? They shouldn't be paid at that level, it's too high. And eventually they got kicked out of FERC, they got kicked out of the district court, and I guess they went to the circuit court, the DC Circuit, and the DC Circuit said, you're right about that price. But the DC Circuit said something else that nobody really brought up, which was, oh, by the way, we looked at this and we think the federal government doesn't have any jurisdiction over this because it comes right from the retail level. So, of course, that upsets the capacity market because while there are 900 some megawatts of efficiency, there are 11,000 megawatts of demand response. So it takes these two industries, takes money away from them. And in particular, if you take them out of the capacity market, what's left? Generation. And remember, you're going up that curve, no more energy efficiency, you've got to go higher up that curve. No more demand response, you got to go higher. You're going to get really expensive generation in the capacity market to clear and set the price. So that's the concern. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. So this is about demand response. You shouldn't have it. This is still in the courts, turning along. But if you look at it, demand response and energy efficiency are coming from the same place. They're coming out of the retail sector and into the wholesale market. What's the diff? None. The decision was about the energy market. But if it's not legal to have demand response in the market, in the energy market, why is it legal to have it in the capacity market? The same logic applies. It's a retail function that's being dragged up to the wholesale, federally regulated level, and it shouldn't be there. So the concern is that we will have energy market participation by demand response found illegal. Then energy efficiency, which is not in the energy market, right? It's in the capacity market. Energy efficiency and demand response in the capacity market found illegal. So all this stuff could be out of there. The Supreme Court is considering whether to take the case. Right now, the Supreme Court doesn't, then energy efficiency and demand response will be out of the PJM capacity market. It will cost us a whole lot more, and there will be less money. Remember, these projects actually get money from the market to be there and serve their purpose. There will be less money to make efficiency and demand response happen. So that's the concern. We're waiting to see what the Supreme Court says. Lots of amicus briefs and all kinds of briefs have been filed. There's a cycle of comment, counter comment. Maybe we'll hear sometime late April, I'm not sure. So there's a lot hanging in the balance here. And this is just kind of my summary. That if EPSA goes all the way through, then it falls down on the states to do energy efficiency because you can't have it in the wholesale market. And the states have various incentives to do energy efficiency and demand response. In West Virginia, it's a threat to coal, so you don't want to do these things. And so state by state, you're going to have less of the stuff going on. And so even if it happens at the state level, and we have sort of those implicit impacts, like you did the project, even though it doesn't show up in the market, it's going to be less consumption, yeah, but with less money, there's going to be fewer projects. Okay, so just a couple of resources if you're interested. PJM has lots and lots of really good training courses. So if you want to understand the markets, if you want to understand capacity markets, go there. There's dozens and dozens of courses. The manuals explain how it all happens. I wouldn't go there, but I wanted to put it in. And I mean, we're talking about 400 pages of stuff. And Order 745 you can find at the